Hey everyone, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to the Slowest WAAAGH, where we are playing Tzeentch. This is turn 6? Turn 6. My god, I can't remember turns this. So, this is turn 6. Still, very early in the game. Still kind of feeling things out, expanding, doing that whole jazz. Let's see what we get. We've got nothing with Augury. Okay, well, that's fine. It happens. No big deal. We'll get there eventually. We'll get there eventually. Surely. Right? Like, it's gotta happen. And we actually get to see a battle with Itza, as well as our battle in Ard. So let's watch the battle in Itza first. Itza attacking independents in the White Waste. So, what is Itza running? Itza has Saurus Cavalry. Cool. So this is a stack of 8 Saurus Cavalry, led by an Old Blood. I'm such a big fan of the Lizardmen in Warhammer Fantasy. I love them so much. I love their units. They're so fucking cool. Look at how cool these fucking units look. Look at these badasses. These are great. So fucking good. These guys are actually really dope. They're we'll take a look after this. They're extremely cheap from a resource perspective. A little expensive from a recruitment point perspective, but extremely cheap from a resource perspective. They have 2 attacks on their rider, 2 attacks on their mounts. They have a lance that has a charge bonus for the first strike, but they don't lose it afterwards. So this is 8 attacks with a charge bonus on the lance for the first attack. 8 attacks per fucking square. These guys mulch things. And you can shit them out. So it's very scary. They don't have the highest protection, right? But they've got decent HP, very high HP on the cold one. Decent HP, decent protection, decent defense, right? Decent defensive statistics. And they just mulch things. So it's very, very good. They are up against a small amount of independence. Instantly dead. Pretty much instantly dead. And more pretty much instant death. Jesus. They do take hits, right? Like we can see this guy has taken a lot of hits. This shield does some heavy fucking lifting. So 14 to 18 defense there, 16 protection. Really fucking heavy lifting. But they're still gonna take damage. They're still gonna get hurt. But they have recuperation. So as long as they don't die, they tend to be fine for the most part, right? As long as they don't get popped, they'll do really, really well, right? So very, very good expansion units. Little jelly. So we have that, and then we attacked in Ard, and we have a massive line of militia with a bunch of our mixed marauders back here. I love the claw on these Forsaken marauders. These guys are dope. And we're up against a bunch of archers, some heavies, some militia, easy peasy. So obviously, militia suck. They're not going to do well. But we have so many of them that they're going to be able to envelop. And often, it doesn't matter how bad your units are. If you envelop something, you harass it down and you smash it. Now, the question is do we kill them and get them off before? Hey! We did it! Even the captain stayed on. So that was kind of to be expected, right? We lost 36 militias, only 1 marauder. That's pretty nice. But they did rout, but they didn't make it off the field. So we're good. Pretty much what we expected to happen. That went about as good as we could have expected. We have acquired a secret, our first secret. We need 29 more in order to unlock a gate. Unexpected event in Anvas, we get Sloth 2. Ooh, epidemic dysentery is spreading. And I didn't talk about this last time, but we have purchased the Elephant Corps to fight by our side. We got a lot of spare money. We could be using this, right? Like, we can recruit Marauders everywhere, and we actually are recruiting Marauders in a lot of locations. But even when we're doing that, because of the way we are playing, we've got a lot of additional money. So, we can see there's shit going on. Oh, fuck. All right, we've got a lot more information this turn. Let's talk about what our moves are, and then we'll talk about the global situation that we find ourselves in. So, we are attacking up into Sirmiok immediately. 40 here, heavy infantry's heavy cav. Not much change. We expect the heavy cav to smash the shit out of the militias. We expect the militias to die and rout. Our marauders have pretty high morale at 12 base. So we're hoping that after the militias get smashed and routed, the Marauders are going to be fine staying on the field. Still a lot of HP at 32 HP versus the 32 units versus the 64 units. Could be okay. Include teleportations. Oh, interesting. I've never seen that button. That's pretty neat. That's very cool. So, we're going to attack into Sirmiok. Hopefully we get that, because there's an Athel Loren right here, right? And because Athel Loren has fucking glamour in forests, they could have a whole fucking expansion party here, and we would not know. So that is concerning. Oh, fuck. Hate that for us. So we're gonna try to pop Sirmiok, and I feel pretty decent about this, but it could go poorly. The heavy cav could smash the militia, that could cause an HP rout, and everything could just flee. But it is what it is, we'll see. Things to note about Ard, right? We automatically find 2 sites here. We have a Dancing Light, which is +1 Glamour Gem, which is dope. We only start with 1 Glamour Gem, 1 Glamour income off of the Silver Tower, so finding another one early is really, really nice. Very happy about that. And an Arena, which is just +40 income, which is pretty cool. Makes this province quite a profitable province. So aside from attacking Sirmiok, we are also poking into the Forest of the Lost with another decently sized stack from of Marauders and the Elephant Corps, right? So Elephant Corps, quite a ways back. They have 18 combat speed versus the 10 combat speed of the Marauders. So they're going to catch up quick. We do have them on attack closest. Expectation here is that we will lose a few Marauders, but that this should be a pretty decent win for us across the board. And then we're going to try to head south, right? Unfortunately, we can see Karaz-a-Karak already down here. Balcoria might be gone before we get a chance to get there. And that would be a little bad. Because we get a little pinched by our neighbors. Let's take a moment to talk about our neighbors. So we saw Naggarond last turn. This turn, we get to see, to the east, we have Athel Loren. To the south, we have Karaz-a-Karak. To the north, we have Middenheim. And to the northwest, we have Itza. So, we know our neighbor's neighbor in Naggarond and Middenheim, right? Itza being neighbor's neighbor there. We can see a bit of expansion from Itza. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 provinces right now. Naggarond is here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Presumably Itza is right here. And they have to have at least whatever this province is. Possibly whatever this province is, depending. So not possibly, right? Like, they have to, because this expansion party just hit here, and it came from one of these three, which means if it came from one of these three in the past several turns, something else had to have taken other routes, right? Which means Itza is probably looking at like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 provinces minimum, probably 7 or so. So Itza's expanding very well. Good job, Itza. Good job. Love it. Love it for you. That's very cool. So this is an interesting situation. To our west, we have Nagorond, who I would say is probably not a very good matchup for us in the fact that one of our strongest suits is recruitable heavies, right? Chaos Warriors being 22 fucking protection. They've got Shades with armor piercing. They've got Black Corsairs with armor piercing. They've got Dark Shards with armor piercing, right? A lot of armor piercing going on in the Nagorond scenario. They've also just got really good tools across the board. Blackguard being very strong, Dread Knights being very strong, Executioners being very strong depending on what your bless is. So that's a bit of a scary proposition. I also have a very good rapport with Darkside, or at least I like to think I have a very good rapport with Darkside, so I prefer not to fight people that I have good rapport with, right? So it just is what it is. I'll do it. It happens, right? But it's just something that I would prefer not to have happen. So Sombre is piloting Middenheim up to the north. iFlyte, not 100% on the pronunciation there, is piloting Athel Loren. Athel Loren is another weird matchup for us, especially when fighting in the forests, which is, you know, we've got forest here and here. If they were to get into our territory, we've got forest here and here. Fortunately, there's no immediate forests in their, you know, periphery. It's just this kind of like gap, right? This, you know, what's the choke point? My brain couldn't fucking think of it. But they also have armor piercing on a bunch of arrows. They also just have a bunch of arrows, period. The Deepwood Scouts do not have armor piercing. The Glade Guard do not have armor piercing. But they do have very strong hits, right? And, you know, archery is inherently pierce even without the armor piercing. So these are very strong bows that get bonuses in forests. And they also have some very weird sacred units that can do some kind of crazy bless strats. So this is an interesting proposition to have to fight. Karaz-a-Karak is Kidzin. So we could just be like, all right, time to Eternal War Kidzin again. And the Dawi have, I guess this is the thing about the Warhammer mod. Everyone has a bunch of really good stuff. The Dawi have a bunch of answers. They are such a Swiss Army knife, but they all have pretty decent protection or very good protection and tend to have a lot of damage. They're very, very resource heavy, so that is an issue. 46 resources on the Rune Guard, their sacreds, right? They are fire resistant, which out of the gate is a little bit of a concern for me because fire is one of those things that we probably are going to be doing a lot of. That's really only their sacreds though, so that's less of a concern. Or at least the Rune Guard sacreds, but it's, you know, it's something there. Very, very interesting situation. And then Middenheim they're fucking Humies, right? So obviously they have a bunch of different great tools, but a lot of times you'll see a lot of like halberdiers or state troops or great swords All things that we can deal with. So Middenheim out of these three is probably the most straightforward option for us, depending on what their bless is, depending on whether they went super scales or a really heavy, random bless or something like that. So that is an interesting situation. But Middenheim's not the person that's up in my face right now. Right now, it's Naggarond and Athel Loren. So, immediately we've started talking to Naggarond. I'm reaching out, tentative highs and hellos to the rest of my neighbors. But we're immediately talking, negotiations with Naggarond, like what's going on, what do we want to do, etc., etc. And what we have come to an initial concept of is me eventually getting Umpholia, and Naggarond getting the guarantee of Walnut Woods, right? Which takes them down into a cave, which may or may not connect to this cave, right? Which we are also heading towards. So we'll see about that. But basically, the idea that, I took Traveler's Rest, that's mine. They did take Umpholia, but with the way things are playing out, this is a better section for me. This is a consolation prize for them. Going into the caves is another kind of like consolation prize, that type of scenario. So, we will be getting Umpholia in. We don't have like a set time. It's basically a when they go for Walnut Woods. So this could be a couple turns, but the idea is that we'll have Traveler's Rest, Umpholia. They'll have Walnut Woods. That'll be our border. Relatively peaceful negotiation. I say relatively, very peaceful negotiations. And we might, depending on whether or not we can take Balcoria, if this is connected, because we actually don't know right now. If we go down in there, then this might end up being a situation where we have to kind of like renegotiate. Okay, how much of this cave are we sharing, etc., etc. So that's the generalized situation with that scenario right now. As you can see, we've got a bunch of Marauder recruitment all over the place. Getting Marauder chieftains just so that we have people to maneuver things around. We are, depending on how things go in Sirmiok, we very well might pull a lot of these chieftains that we have into Silver Woods in combination with the army from Sirmiok. But that depends on whether or not this army gets crushed or mauled or what have you, etc., etc. And then in Tzeentch itself, we are actually switching off of Acolytes. We're going to grab a Marauder Shaman so that we can start site searching for nature. We would love to get Death as the other random here, or as the random here, but Water or Glamour will be fine. Death is just the preference, right? If we can get an early Death site searcher, that is pretty good for us. Because it doesn't take much Death to get going, and we are going to naturally be going up Conjuration anyways, so getting Dark Knowledge is pretty easy as long as we can get a little bit of Death income to Dark Knowledge every once in a while, right? Like that kind of concept. So we've got that going on. Bunch more Marauders. This may be the last turn that we do Marauders. It may not be, because when we get Forest of the Lost, it was pretty close this turn. We can start producing a fair number of Chaos Warriors, but we're just not quite at the point where I would want to turn off Marauder production. But we're getting pretty close. We also could start going for Chaos Knights, but those motherfuckers, they're very good, but they're so fucking expensive. Like, and unlike the Saurus, the Saurus cavalry, they lose their lance, and then they're only 4 attacks a square at that point. Honestly, makes me sad. The Chosen Knights are just so good though, right? With the Tzeentch Fire Sword, basically being like a little mini flame brand, it is quite good. So anyways, we've got that situation going on. We're also adding a couple more Chaos Trolls to the mix. Still not using the Chaos Trolls. Again, we want to have a not a critical mass of them, but you want to have like 8 or 10 of them, I feel, before you really throw them in. Otherwise, they just run forward and there's like three or four of them, and they just, kind of die. It's kind of whatever. But if you can mix in a couple of them, or better yet, get upwards of like 20 of them, these guys have a lot of HP. They take buffs very well. And they can kind of tear things up, right? Because they have this weird troll vomit that's, area of effect. They have a bunch of attacks, and it's pretty decent. So, I like them. They're kind of neat. So, that I think is pretty much the turn. We should be running up Evocation relatively quickly. Continuing auguries. I think that's pretty much it. Oh, right. So Melkorka's Green Men were on the list this turn. And I really want to get into this ocean, right? Like, I really want to get into this ocean. That would be really nice for us. But is just extremely unlikely for Melkorka's Green Men. The Marrows are not good. They're not strong, and Turtle Tribe Tritons, if I remember correctly, let me check. I think they are the ones that actually have like the clear off of this Turtle Tribe Tritons are the ones that have the Coral Spear, which does 5 poison HP. Yeah, so these guys versus Marrows, if the units are anywhere comparable, or the unit sizes are anywhere comparable, the Marrows are going to get butchered, right? Because they just have the Stone Spear, they have lower or the same protection depending on which one. Oh, no, I think they have lower protection. And it's just not a good matchup, right? It's just not a good matchup. So I really wanted to buy them and kind of like try that out, but I don't think it's going to be successful because these guys have been pretty consistently around that 50 to 60 mark. So I think that we just lose that. And we have no other recruitment options, like no Shamblers or anything like that. I'm hoping maybe if we can get into Silver Woods, I'm hoping it's not gonna. Maybe if we got to like Rick Balcor or something. I don't know. I have a feeling that we're not gonna be able to get into Divine Ocean before Middenheim comes up with a solution, unless we go to war with Middenheim pretty early and do something about that. If we get into kind of like the mid game and we have our plan of doing demon princes and things like that, or even just we get some of our summons or some of our like bigger ticket items like Exalted Heroes or demon princes, etc. We can kit someone out to go underwater with a ring and do pretty well, but that's a ways away, right? Like that's 15, 20 turns away before we get to like a Chaos Lord or Exalted Hero. But before we get to like demon princes or things like that. So that seems less likely. We're just gonna have to keep an eye out for something other than Melkorka. So we'll see. Otherwise, that I think is the turn. Pretty optimistic about these two expansions. Pretty optimistic about taking the majority of this. I don't think we'll have a problem. We know we're gonna have Umpholia. So now we turn into the issue of the concept of like, can we get Balcoria and can we get underground? Because if we can, then the 12-ish provinces that we're kind of like looking at maybe turns into like 15 or 16. you know, what's the expansion looking like for Middenheim up here? Because we'll have a favorable expansion on the west. Probably not a favorable expansion on the east because they've taken troll lands, and this is kind of like a, you know, around a mountainside, so probably not going to work out. And then this down here is, even if we took it, isn't necessarily favorable because it's a little swamp waste section, right? So, we'll see. Not sure, but tentatively optimistic. And we got our first secret. Maybe that will continue. Fingers crossed. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. That's it. See you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.